Hello, my name is Paul Brown, Vice Principal and Psychology Teacher at Hurstmere School, and I would like to take this opportunity to thank you for taking an interest in studying GCSE Psychology at Hurstmere, a subject that I'm extremely passionate about. This academic year is the first time psychology has been taught at Hurstmere, and there are currently 34 Year 10 students who are studying psychology. Over the course of this presentation, I will go through some facts about psychology. You may be unaware of what it involves, an outline of the course, skills you will develop, and potential careers where having a psychology qualification may be useful. From a personal point of view, I've successfully taught GCSE and A-level psychology for a number of years at my previous school, with a number of those students going on to study psychology at university, including two at a top university at Cambridge, something that I am very, very proud of. I'm now going to go through a number of statements about psychology, and I'd like you to have a go in deciding if they are true or false. Read the statement and then make your decision. Psychology is the same as psychiatry. This is in fact false. Psychiatry is the study and treatment of mental illness, while psychology does look at mental disorders. However, it is the study of the mind and, more importantly, behaviour. Second statement, is psychology a science? This is in fact true. Psychology is the scientific study of the human mind and behaviour. Psychologists can tell what you're thinking. This is in fact false. Psychologists can only study observable behaviours. They certainly aren't psychic. Sigmund Freud is a famous psychologist. This is in fact true. Sigmund Freud is actually one of the world's most famous psychologists, and we will study his theories in more detail during the course. Psychologists might be interested in how we can improve our memory. This is in fact true. Psychologists may be interested in how we can improve our memory. In fact, many studies and experiments have been carried out on how we can improve our memory. If we were to define psychology, it can be described as the study of the human mind, its functions, and how it affects behaviour. So why take GCSE psychology? So through psychology, we can examine the human mind in terms of mental behaviours and psychological functions. Psychologists will then try to understand how it functions, responds, and if it can be improved, how it can be kept in a stable state. They do this by observing, interpreting, and recording how people relate to each other and the environment. So by conducting scientific studies, they're able to monitor behaviour and brain function. They collect information through interviews, surveys, and tests. And from that, they can identify patterns that predict behaviour from recognising and diagnosing mental, behavioural, or emotional states. Where possible, we replicate a number of these psychological studies in the classroom, which will allow the students to collect data through tests, surveys, and then compare their results with the real experiments. In my experience, if you can learn practically by actually doing the experiment, you gain far more knowledge, and therefore you're able to retain this information more effectively. So, if people's thoughts, emotions, feelings, and behaviours intrigue you, then studying GCSE psychology could be the starting point to a fascinating career. So we're now going to have a look at the different types of approaches in psychology. The first approach we look at is something called cognitive psychology. So what I'd like you to do is to have a look at the picture on the right hand side. What's the first thing that actually comes into your mind about what you are actually seeing? Is it an old woman with a pointy chin, or is it a young woman looking over her shoulder? Because in fact, they are both there. It's just how you interpret the picture. So this is an example where our brain can be fooled by what's known as an optical illusion. This is a cognitive process which looks at mental processes and how we think. So this will be covered during the topic of perception, which is one part of cognitive psychology. Now what I'd like you to do is to have a guess at how many sweets you think there are. So how many do you think? 50, 75, 100, 132, 148, 150? Have a look again. Do you think you need to change your answer? If so, do it now. And if other people are watching this with you, have they changed their answer? So if you have changed your mind, you may have done it after I read those numbers out. Or you may have observed somebody else in the room changing their mind. Did that influence you in wanting to change your answer? Just have a think. That was an example of the second approach in psychology, which is social psychology. So changing your behavior in line with other people or external factors, it's called social influence. And this is part of social context and behavioral psychology, which looks at how people's behaviors, thoughts, and feelings are influenced by the actual or imagined presence of other people. And again, this is an area of psychology that we will study in lots of depth. The third and final approach is the biological approach to psychology. And this is the nature versus nurture debate. So nature often refers to our biology. So factors we were born with, such as genes, hormones, and the structure of our brains. Nurture refers to factors in our environment and how we learn. In psychology, this debate can be applied to certain behaviors to try and explain why these behaviors occur. So my year 10s are currently looking at different theories related to perception. One of those theories is linked to nature. In other words, you were born with the ability to perceive. The second theory is linked to nurture, and this is where we learn from our past experiences and our knowledge in order to be able to perceive. Once they've gone through both of these theories, they are then able to make their own decisions to which approach they think is the most suitable. So what does the course involve? Well, there are two units or two papers that the boys will study, paper 1 and paper 2. At the end of the course, they will be examined by two 1 hour 45-minute exams. And that will be graded from 9 to 1, 9 being the highest grade, 1 being the lowest. And it is expected to draw on the knowledge and understanding of the entire course of the study to show a deeper understanding of these topics. So each paper will include multiple choice, short answers, and extended writing essay type questions, which would be worth 9 marks. After gaining a GCSE, then most people will go on to study psychology and other social sciences at A level and beyond. The course also develops many other transferable skills, not just to other subjects, but for future work and in life in general. So these include things like critical analysis, independent thinking, and research skills. And there are many areas that we cover, and I'll explain more about these shortly. So this is Unit 1, Cognition and Behaviour. And these topics will be taught during Year 10. So they include memory, perception, development, and research methods. Unit 2, which is social, context and behaviour, will be taught during Year 11, and the topics include social influence, language, thought and communication, brain and neuropsychology, and psychological problems. For each topic, there are a number of named studies. On the left, you can see all the named studies for Unit 1, and on the right, all the named studies for Unit 2. Generally, these named studies will be examined by the 9-mark essay-style questions. Students will be expected to outline and evaluate them in detail. During the course, we model best practice, develop essay-style writing, so come the exam, all the boys will be fully prepared to score highly on these types of questions. So what else will you learn? We've already touched on the fact that the course will help develop key transferable skills. You will develop an understanding of yourself, others, and how psychology can explain everyday behaviours. The third bullet point is really important if students wish to gain a grade 7 or above. The use of key specialist vocabulary when answering questions is vital for achieving the higher grades. That's not just in psychology, but for all subjects. Here's some other key areas you will learn during the course. Things like personal, moral, social, and cultural issues. An understanding of ethical issues in psychology. We will also develop key math skills during the course, especially when collecting and analysing data when completing psychology investigations. We currently follow the AQA specification. Here are some links that will take you to the website for AQA and enable you to look at the content for each unit in more detail. On this website, there are more details that may help you make the decision to see if psychology is the right subject for your son. Finally, here is a list of potential careers where a psychology qualification may be of use. It is worth remembering that psychology is an academic subject with lots of written work over the course of 2 years. So thank you once again for showing an interest in GCSE psychology.